Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the City of Oxnard Planning Commission for Thursday, April 4, 2024. The meeting will come to order at 6 p.m. The public may view the meeting from home on the city's website, Spectrum Channel 10, Frontier Channel 35, or on the city's YouTube website. To participate in the meeting, the public may provide comments to the Planning Commission via email at planning@oxnard.org no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting, or through the city's website at oxnard.org/city-meetings, or call the Planning Division office. Additionally, those wishing to speak can dial the phone number listed at the bottom of your screen, follow the instructions to access the meeting, and press star 9 to raise your hand, indicating your intention to speak on the agenda item being discussed. Madam Secretary, can we please have the roll call?
Chair Arejo.
Present.
Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
Present.
Commissioner Nash.
Present.
Commissioner Zielsdorf.
Present.
Commissioner Connolly.
Here, thank you.
Commissioner Schulke.
Present.
And Commissioner Dr. Lopez is absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We will now move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. After Commissioner Connolly will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, we'll have a moment of silence. It's Dr. MLK Jr.'s death anniversary. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Commissioner Connolly. The next agenda item is C, public comments on items not on the agenda. At this time, a person may address the Planning Commission on matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission, including information, consent items, and any time not appearing on the agenda. The Planning Commission cannot take action on any item presented during public comments that is not on the agenda, and such item may only be referred to the Commission Secretary. Persons wishing to speak on such item should do so at the time of the public hearing. Madam Secretary, are there any public comments for items not on the agenda?
No, Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. Our next agenda item is D, consent agenda, D1, January 18, 2024. If there are no corrections offered, a motion to approve is in order. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
I'll move the recommended action.
Thank you. It's been moved by Vice Chair Dr. Stewart to approve the minutes, January 18, 2024. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zielsdorf. Is there any deliberation on the motion before us? Seeing and hearing none. Oh, Commissioner Connolly.
I just have a quick question. I was not in attendance that day, but it says that it's minimal. It says Dr. Lopez led the pledge, but it also says that he was absent with me too.
Thank you, Commissioner Connolly. If it can be noted that Commissioner Dr. Lopez was not at the meeting and anywhere else in the minutes, please. I'll pause a little and see if there's any other corrections at this time.
So you're saying, sorry, that Lopez wasn't?
I don't know if he was here or not because I was also not here, but it says in the notes that it says motion vote that myself and Dr. Lopez were absent, but it said that he led the pledge. So in B, it says Dr. Lopez, and then in D, under motion vote.
Okay, I see.
I think it's actually correct as presented because that was a correction of a previous meeting on December 7th. Oh, but if you can indicate what page number, is it the first draft page of the minutes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was in reference to December 7th, because there was corrections to the December 7th minutes.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you very much. Are there any other corrections or questions? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Nash.
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly.
Abstain.
Commissioner Schulke.
Abstain.
Chair Arejo.
Aye.
This motion passes.
Madam Secretary, I'm going to ask for Commissioner Zilstorf vote.
Oh. I believe she's,
Oh, we missed her on that round.
oh, I apologize.
It's okay.
Your vote, Commissioner Zilstorf.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please continue, Madam Secretary.
This motion passes.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. We'll move on to Section E, ex parte declarations for public hearing items. Please state any ex parte declarations, if any. We'll move across the dais. Commissioner Zilstorf.
None, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zilstorf. Commissioner Conley.
None, Chair, thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
None, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash.
None, thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Schulke.
None, thank you.
Thank you, and none for myself. We'll move on to Section F, public hearing, agenda item F1. Get to them. Project name Cypress Road Acquisition General Plan Conformity, Planning and Zoning Permit number 24-625-01, General Plan Conformity Determination located at 5208, 52 through 5230 Cypress Road. I request that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution confirming that the City of Oxnard's acquisition of real property located at 5208 to 5230 Cypress Road for future potential housing development is in conformance with the City of Oxnard 2030 General Plan and recommending that the City Council acquire the property. The request is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3 and Sections 15378B5, requested by Elsa Brown, Development Manager on behalf of the City of Oxnard. City staff Serena Gonzalez, Assistant Planner. Per Measure M, a staff presentation has been pre-recorded and the link has been posted to YouTube. And per previously approved standing rule, staff can provide a brief summary of the pre-recorded presentation in addition to other analysis at this time. Staff, Ms. Gonzalez.
Sorry. Good evening. Just a quick summary of the project. This is a request to determine whether or not the acquisition of a property is in conformance with the general plan. We recommend approval. And then I do have 2 additional pieces of information to add, just because there were some corrections that need to be made.
And please continue with those.
So on page 1, of the whole packet, so of my staff report, it says that any future use would need to be approved within the downtown code. However, that's a typo. It should just be the Oxnard City Code, the regular zone code. And then on page 9 of the packet, it says that the purpose of the acquisition is an undetermined use, and that is what it is for right now. It could be used for housing, but any future development would be required to comply with the city code, and the use is allowed in the R2 multifamily zone.
Ms. Gonzalez, if I could clarify, page 9, we don't have at least the page number of the
Yeah.
packet. Is it in the notice of exemption or in the resolution itself?
Sorry. Yeah, notice of exemption, but, sorry, Mr. Pearson, do you know which page it's on? Because I don't also have page numbers.
Yeah, so it's part of the notice of exemption on, I believe, under description of nature, purpose, and beneficiaries of project.
And can you repeat what the correction was, now that we've determined where it is?
So essentially, there's a question regarding if the use had been determined, because in the report, we make reference to potential housing. Yes, that is a potential use. However, no project has been approved at the site at this time, so that could change. But we just want to note, not so much a correction, but just to clarify that any future use would be required to comply with the Oxnard City Code and any of the uses allowed under the multifamily or the R2 zone.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez. If there's no other comments at this time from staff. We'll go to members to ask questions of staff. Commission.
And Commissioners, I just want to note that we do have Elsa Brown here with us in the audience as well.
Thank you very much. Welcome, Ms. Brown. Seeing and hearing, Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. Since there was some confusion about whether, what page it was on, do we have, is there a protocol for us to follow to make it, when we have a question, that it's clear to staff and clear to the Planning Commission? Because I tend to go page 9 of 208, just because it's in the agenda packet, but that's probably not the clearest way. So do you have a recommendation on how we could standardize our questions to avoid confusion?
That generally works for us. I know it's a little bit confusing here. What we can do is we could try to actually add page numbers, so that might make it a little bit easier for the commission in the future.
Because I just realized that it's clear if you're on a computer, but if you're here looking at the paper copy or whatever, then it's a little bit confusing. So maybe I'll include both in the future. Just
Yes, and like I said,
So-
we can maybe add the page numbers just so that way it's actually in the packet.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Any other questions from the commission at this time? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go to public comment. Madam Secretary, is there any public comment?
No, Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now closed. If there's no closing remarks from staff, we'll move on to deliberation. Commission. With no deliberation before us, a motion is now in order. Commissioner Nash.
I move the recommended action.
And I'll second.
It has been moved by Commissioner Nash, seconded by Vice Chair Dr. Stewart, to find the acquisition of real property located at 5208 through 5230 Cypress Road exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3 and Section 15378B5, and adopt Resolution 2024-XX affirming that the City of Oxnard's acquisition of real property located at APN 222-0-042-120 and 222-0-042-110 is in conformance with the City of Oxnard 2030 General Plan and recommending that the City Council order the acquisition. Is there any deliberation on the motion before us? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can I have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Zielsdorf. Aye. Commissioner Connolly,
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Schuelke,
Aye.
Chair Arejo.
Aye.
This motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. We'll move on to the second project, Meta Street Property Acquisition General Plan Conformity Planning and Zoning Permit number 24-625-03. General Plan Conformity Determination located on Meta Street between 5th and 6th Streets. I request that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution affirming that the City of Oxnard's acquisition of real property located at APN 201-0-213-150 on Meta Street between 5th and 6th Streets is in conformance with the City of Oxnard 2030 General Plan and recommending that the City Council acquire the property. The request is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15061B3 and 15378B5, requested by Emilio Ramirez, Housing Director on behalf of the City of Oxnard, City Staff, Mr. Joe Pearson II, Planning and Environmental Services Manager. Per Measure M, a staff presentation has been pre-recorded and the link has been posted to YouTube. Per previously approved standing rules, staff can provide a brief summary of the pre-recorded presentation in addition to other analysis at this time. Mr. Hernandez or Mr. Pearson?
So I can give a brief overview. Essentially, this is a request for the acquisition of property. The property will potentially be used for a mixed-use type project. Any future use of the property would need to be in compliance with the downtown code. So while that use has not yet been determined, again, any use would have to be consistent with the downtown code itself. With that, there's no additional comments on my part, and I will, if Emilio has any additional items that he would like to add, then he's available here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. And thank you. We'll move on now to the commission. Is there any questions of staff? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to public comment. Madam Secretary, is there any public comment?
No, Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. The public hearing is now closed, and we'll move on to deliberation. Commission. Seeing no deliberation before us, a motion is in order. Commissioner Conley.
I move to accept the recommended action.
Thank you, Commissioner Conley. It has been moved by Commissioner Conley to find the acquisition of unimproved real property located on Meta Street and reference with APN 201-0-213-150 is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15061B3 and 15378B5, and adopt resolution 2024-XX affirming that the City of Oxnard's acquisition of unimproved real property located at APN 201-0-213-150 is in conformance with the City of Oxnard 2030 General Plan and recommending that the City Council order the acquisition. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Zilsdorf. Any deliberation on the motion before us at this time? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Commissioner Zielsdorf,
Aye.
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Commissioner Schulke,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Stewart,
Yes.
Chair Arejo.
Aye.
This motion passes.
Thank you very much. We move on to the third project, 3941 through 3951 Saviors Road Acquisition, General Plan Conformity, Planning and Zoning Permit Number 24-625-04, General Plan Conformity Determination located on 3941 and 3951 Saviors Road, APN 205-0-275-265, a request that the Planning Commission adopt a resolution affirming that the Housing Authority of the City of Oxnard's acquisition of a 8-unit apartment complex is in conformance with the City of Oxnard 2030 General Plan and recommending that the Board of Commissioners acquire the property. The request is exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines sections 15061B3 and section 15378B5, requested by Emilio Hernandez, Housing Director, on behalf of the City of Oxnard, City Staff, Mr. Joe Pearson, Planning and Environmental Services Manager. Per Measure M, a staff presentation has been pre-recorded and the link has been posted to YouTube. Per previously approved standing rules, staff can provide a brief summary of the pre-recorded presentation in addition to other analysis at this time. Mr. Pearson.
Chair Rowe and Commissioners, again, this is just a request for general plan conformity determination for the acquisition of a existing apartment complex. With this project, no changes are currently proposed to the existing complex. And with that, I will hand it over to Emilio Ramirez, our Housing Director, to provide additional comment.
Thank you, Planning Commission. Emilio Ramirez, Director of Housing. A quick update, which not really responsive to the question that you had posed, but after publication of the agenda, the seller withdrew from the purchase and sale agreement, and so this transaction has been canceled.
Thank you for that update, Mr. Hernandez. That's actually one of my questions, or Mr. Ramirez, that was one of my questions in regards to a standing building. So I think at this time, if there's no objection, given the update by Mr. Emilio Ramirez, that we move on from this agenda item? What should be the legal?
There is no need for a general plan conformity since the city is not, or the housing authority is not acquiring it. So I think that you can table the item and move on to the next.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Roselle, for that. If there's no objection, we will table this item. And seeing no objection, we'll move on to the next project, MGB Speedy Mart Alcohol Special Use Permit, Planning and Zoning Permit Number 23-510-04, Special Use Permit Alcohol located at 1055 Patterson Road, APN 185-0-120-035. A request for approval of the special use permit to upgrade existing Type 20 license beer and wine to an alcohol beverage control license Type 21 license to sell distilled spirits for off-site consumption at an existing 42 square foot commercial suite within an 8214 square foot building for the existing convenience store market. The project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to Section 15301 existing facilities, Class 1 of the CEQA guidelines filed by Alex Wu, designated agent on behalf of property owner Oceana Plaza LLC, city staff Markham Caldwell, associate planner. Per Measure M, a staff presentation has been pre-recorded and the link has been posted to YouTube. Per previously approved standing rules, staff can provide a brief summary of the pre-recorded presentation in addition to other analysis at this time. And with the presentation that was posted to YouTube, there were a couple minutes that some sections were garbled, at least from my perspective. And so I'm going to ask a little bit more than a perfunctory summary in regards to the presentation at this time. So we'll go with Mr. Caldwell. Please.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, Planning Commission. This permit at 1055 South Patterson Road is for an upgrade of an existing Type 20 alcohol beverage control license for the business known as MGB Speedy Mart. And this permit has been existing since 1977 and has been grandfathered in as a Type 20 license for the sale of beer and wine. And this application is to upgrade to a Type 21 license for the sales of distilled spirits. And a public community workshop was held on February 12th a mailing was made for the community of Seaview Estates, as well as a 1,000-foot radius surrounding the subject site. And staff has received no comments from the community or input from the community to date regarding any input for this proposed upgrade of the alcohol license. And staff recommends approval of this project. For additional questions, I'm here to answer any gaps that were perceived within the recording.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Caldwell. At this time, if the applicant is present, they have 15 minutes to present at their leisure. Is the applicant here or on Zoom land?
I believe he's on Zoom.
Okay. If for this project, if you could state your name and you have 15 minutes.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please continue.
My apologies. I'm having difficulty with my video, but I will go ahead and make a quick presentation. Good evening, Mr. Chair and honorable commissioners. My name is Alex Wu with Genesis Consulting, Inc., and we are the designated agent for this case. I appreciate the opportunity to present the case before the esteemed Planning Commission. Unfortunately, due to a family emergency, I was not able to make the meeting in person. Our team would like to take a moment to express our sincerest gratitude to Mr. Swenson and Mr. Caldwell for all their assistance with the case. Their professionalism and guidance throughout the application process was very commendable. As stated in the staff report, this site has been approved to sell beer and wine since 1977. The current ownership has been operating the store since March of 1998. For the past 26 years, they have served the community by forging a great working relationship and look forward to partnering with us continued efforts to make this city a wonderful place to call home. We have reviewed the staff report and concur with the conditions of approval. Thank you for your consideration, and I'm available for any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Wu.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And if you just stay online, just for our next section, at this time, members may ask questions of either or both the applicant and staff. When you do make your questions, please indicate who you're asking. Again, at least the primary from what I've seen, Mr. Wu, Mr. Swenson, and Mr. Caldwell, and I'm sure Mr. Pearson or Mr. Roselle if need be. Commission. Commissioner Schuelke.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm sorry, I haven't caught the name of the gentleman on the line. It's Mr.
Mr. Alex Wu, W-O-O.
Correct. Thank you. Mr. Wu, thank you for joining this evening. I know that in the staff report, there were some concerns regarding lighting. I'm curious, have you had specific conversations with the owner about the lighting for the entire building? And if so, what are those plans?
Yes, sir. So we had discussions with the property management to let them know that we will need to bring the lighting up to code. They are the same ownership and management of another property that was recently that have gone through this similar process. So they're very familiar with the lighting requirements per the city code section. So we will be commencing on the lighting improvements upon the approval of the SUP.
Thank you. And sorry to clarify, was that the property management company or the property owner?
So the property management company is the one that we have actually had conversations with, but obviously they represent the property ownership, and having gone through this process with another property, they're very familiar with what is needed, and they are more than agreeant with the needed, the required upgrades.
Thank you. Additionally, the Planning Commission staff report indicates that the parking lot is illuminated by roof-mounted floodlights, which are blinding and inappropriate and not legal for the setting. It goes on to say that the planning staff could not find any permits for the parapet-mounted flood lighting, making them illegal and not up to current shopping center standards. Do you know the background and history of that, and what concrete plans there may be to rectify those absent the approval of a special use permit?
Unfortunately, the floodlight lights were existing prior to our clients taking ownership of the business. But like I said, the property management is aware of the current floodlight not being in compliance, and while doing the necessary upgrades, we will address that and make sure that that is also properly removed or going through the proper permitting process.
Thank you. And I may be confused. The owner has been in possession of the property since 1998. Is that correct?
He is the tenant. He's not the property owner.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. And then I have just a few questions for staff, if I may, who I was grateful to have help address some of my questions earlier this week, and I appreciate the work put into these recommendations. On page 5 of the staff report under police department input, it says that the beat coordinator has, quote, concerns related to homeless loitering, drinking, and using narcotics. On page 6, the memo says the beat coordinator's observations were confirmed. So while I understand this neighborhood has lower crime rates than other parts of the city, how are the beat coordinator's concerns taken into consideration here?
They were taken into consideration, and there is a condition that addresses the single sales in the conditions.
And that condition is that as I understand it, that's item 18, and it's that the shelves are sort of locked down. Is that correct?
No, the single sales has to do with the cheaper alcoholic beverages that tend to be abused when they're sold in singles, and they're sold in triples or larger quantities.
Yes. This may be where I got confused because sorry, Mr. Pearson, when I reached out to ask about these single sales, I was pointed to item 18, on the final action, what do we call this, the PC?
The resolution.
Right, and so item 18 says permittee shall bolt down or otherwise secure all cash registers to service counters to prevent the entire device from being stolen during a burglary or robbery. I noted that item 19 appears to have been omitted, I imagine by mistake. Is there something about single sales that I'm not seeing here?
Sorry, so actually it's in the planning commission resolution. So those are the kind of recommended conditions that we receive from the police department. And then that gets incorporated into the resolution. So the number that's being referenced is in the planning commission resolution itself.
Thank you. And then my last question here then would be on page 6, the report indicates that the parking lot is illuminated by roof-mounted floodlights. I mentioned this earlier, which are blinding and inappropriate and not legal for the setting. Furthermore, the planning staff could not find any permits for the parapet-mounted floodlighting, making them illegal and not up to current shopping center standards. My question is, given the illegal and inadequate nature of the lighting at this property and its current state, 2 questions. 1, are there tools to bring the business in compliance absent a special use permit? And 2, are there any concerns about the likelihood of the lighting being improved given past practice?
I'll answer your first question first. It would be a code compliance issue, and it just has not been reported as a non-compliant to code compliance because this document was pending, and we fully expect the business operator to come into full compliance pretty soon. We don't want to have the light completely disappear in that shopping center. If you correct it right away, they need to go through the permit process. So I think the best avenue is through this permit, provided it gets approved. If it doesn't, I'll be filing a code complaint with code compliance.
Thank you. The second part of the question was, I mean, in your experience, does past practice give any does that cause any concern?
Well, historically, we've had some difficulty with our lighting standards in the city. And it's hard to look at a property by driving by and tell whether that lighting was approved or not approved without research.
Yes.
And I can look at the lighting and tell you whether it's currently not compliant with current standards, but if it's been grandfathered in as a legal non-conforming, then it sits and it doesn't get changed.
Well, thank you for addressing my questions, and I again appreciate staff's time earlier this week as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Schuelke. Any others from the commission at this time? Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Swenson, most of my questions were answered already. The control of single-use containers, that's already been addressed by the police department's special conditions?
Under the regular conditions, it's addressed, yes.
So there's really nothing more that we as a planning commission need to do?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, I am not crazy about the expansion of an alcohol permit in a solidly residential area. However, that concern is outweighed by the expansion of the conditions of approval, and that's sort of the police department's attitude also, isn't it?
Yes, particularly with these longstanding businesses that, in the case of this site, it's been there since the early part of my career, and this is an opportunity to make some great improvements to that business and also to the neighborhood because it, is part of that neighborhood. And we should take that opportunity as a great thing.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's all, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Any others from the commission at this time? I have one quick question to probably Mr. Swenson. In regards to the hours that I see, 7 a.m. to 12, is that something that's more biased towards the police preferences, the applicants, or there's some type of negotiation?
There's a little bit of negotiation in that. In a convenience store setting like this one is, those hours tend to work best. They're not leading into late night bar and party time after midnight. And it takes away a place for people to, loiter with a purpose after those, late hours. So that's a good thing. If this was on a major thoroughfare like Saviors Road or Oxnard Boulevard, we might consider it differently because the traffic is different, the circumstances are different. It may not be adjacent to or quite as close to residences as this site is. So midnight tends to be a good hour for this locale.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Swenson. And a follow-up on the beginning side of it, I think mostly our concerns are usually with the end. But at the beginning, is there a state or a city minimum? And what is your thought process in how early they can sell? Because I just figured that there'd be less of a concern in regards to the start time. Or is there just a default from the police?
Yeah, the state restriction is you can't sell alcohol between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. The city has no time restriction. It's pretty much up to what we establish here through the Planning Commission.
And the 7 a.m. is kind of standard for the city or for a neighborhood?
For this kind of
location?
business, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Swenson. Any others from the commission at this time? Commissioner Schulke.
My apologies, there's one item I forgot. Earlier this week when I met with staff, came across that does the lighting that will be required at this site include the back alley? And if not, can it be amended to do so?
Yes, it'll include the whole site.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schulke. If there are no other questions from the commission, we will move on to public comment. Madam Secretary, is there any public comment?
No, Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. We will close public comment. Are there any closing remarks from staff?
No additional comments from staff.
Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. We'll move on to deliberation. Commission. Commissioner Nash.
Hearing none, I move the recommended action.
It has been moved by Commissioner Nash to find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301, existing facilities, and adopt Resolution 2024-XX approving planning and zoning permit number 23-510-04, special use permit alcohol, subject to certain findings and conditions. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Conley. Is there any deliberation on the motion before us? I'll say one quick thing. I did see that in regards to the staff that I was a little bit negative in regards to initially approving because at least compared to relatively to our previous alcohol permits, it didn't seem maybe to be on par would be the best way to put it. But I'm a numbers person, and just seeing that the applicant's annular rate was below average compared to commercial property citywide, I believe that as of right now, given the comments before us, that we should approve the motion before us. Any other comments at this, or any other deliberation at this time? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Nash.
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly.
Yes, thank you.
Commissioner Zielsdorf.
Aye, thank you.
Commissioner Schulke.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
Yes.
Chair Arejo.
Aye.
This motion passes.
Thank you very much. And before we move on to the fifth project, Mr. Caldwell, I believe it's your first time before the Planning Commission, or at least as me as chair of the Planning Commission, if you could just do a brief intro before we move on to the next item, please.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and Planning Commission. My name is Markham Caldwell. I'm an associate planner for the city of Oxnard. I have a background as a real estate appraiser. I've done real estate feasibility studies, long-range municipal urban planning, as well as short-range municipal planning for the county of Ventura for 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think, I don't want to speak on Commissioner Conley's behalf, but I imagine that she likes that there's a real estate someone with information on the city or with the city staff. So sorry to put those words in your mouth, Commissioner Conley. Thank you very much, Mr. Caldwell. Appreciate that. We'll move on to the fifth item, Golden Egg Cafe Alcohol Special Use Permit. Planning and Zoning Permit Number 24-510-01, Special Use Permit Alcohol located at 1651 South Victoria Avenue, Suite 120. A request for approval of a special use permit for a new Type 41 alcohol beverage control license, beer and wine eating place to an existing restaurant. The project is exempt from environmental review pursuant to Section 15301 Existing Facilities, Class 1 of CEQA Guidelines, filed by Alicia Hernandez, business owner, on behalf of property owner Sharam Afshani of Beverly Hills, city staff Juan Carlos Torres, associate planner. Per Measure M, a staff presentation has been pre-recorded and the link has been posted to YouTube. Per previously approved setting rules, staff can provide a brief summary of the pre-recorded presentation in addition to other analysis at this time. Mr. Torres, Mr. Pearson.
Yes. Chair Reyes, I'll be handling this one. Mr. Torres was able to go on vacation, so hope he's enjoying it. So for this one, this is just a request for a new alcohol permit to allow for beer and wine sales at an existing restaurant. There was two things that I just want to note. In the staff report, there was a comment that there was not an undue concentration in one section. However, below that, it did say that there was an undue concentration, so there is an undue concentration at this time. And that does not change staff's recommendation. Again, it was just in one location in the report. And then there was one comment that was in the, I believe, the PD review, kind of right before the publication. There was a change to include the patio space outdoors. So they are asking to allow for the sale of alcohol in the patio space in the rear of the building. I believe that was talked about in the presentation, but I just wanted to make that clarification here again. And then I believe the applicant is here with us as well. They don't have a presentation, but they're here for comments and questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. And for those changes, is it recommended by staff that there should be a formal amendment to the resolution, or you're just more or less clarifying the packet?
The resolution is correct. It was just in the staff report. So just the clarification.
Acknowledged. Thank you, Mr. Pearson. We will now have the applicant, the business owner or the property owner, if they are here, that they have 15 minutes to present. Yes. Yep. And if you could just introduce yourself briefly, and then you have 15 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Hernandez. I'm the daughter of owners Ramiro Hernandez and Alicia Hernandez. We are here just in case you guys have any extra questions or concerns. I know that he mentioned about us trying to extend, what is it called? Open up the patio for that, but I don't know if there's any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hernandez. Mr. Hernandez, appreciate that. With that, we'll have, and feel free to sit down. If Commission have any questions, we'll direct our questions to you. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, members may ask questions of the applicant or staff. Please indicate who your questions are going to before you ask your question. Commission. Seeing and hearing none at this time, Madam Secretary, is there any public comment on the item before us?
No, Chair, there are none.
Thank you very much. We will now close the public hearing and move on to deliberation. Commission. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. So, whereas I don't think this necessarily falls under ex parte, I have had the pleasure of eating at this establishment several times. And just as my little blurb for Oxnard, I hope that everybody gets a chance to visit and patronize the businesses down at Seabridge. It's a wonderful amenity for the city of Oxnard. Take a walk around the area. It's fantastic. It's flat, so I appreciate that. My knees appreciate that. So I'm fully ready to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Are there any others from the commission at this time? Commissioner Connolly.
I'll echo the same thing as Commissioner Nash. I've been to the establishment one time and it was wonderful. It was a Saturday and a mimosa would have been nice, so I fully support this because I'm sure other people would agree with that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Connolly. Any others from the commission? Seeing and hearing none, a motion is now in order. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
I'll move the recommended action.
Thank you. It has been moved by Vice Chair Dr. Stewart to find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15301 existing facilities and adopt Resolution 2024-XX approving planning and zoning permit number 24-510-01, special use permit alcohol subject to certain findings and conditions. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Connolly. Is there any deliberation on the motion before us? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can we have the roll call, please?
Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly.
Yes.
Commissioner Nash.
Aye.
Commissioner Zielsdorf.
Aye.
Commissioner Schulke.
Aye.
Chair Arejo.
Aye.
This motion passes.
Thank you. Congratulations. And thank you, Madam Secretary. Before we move on to the next studies, section G, study session reports, I need 5 minutes. If there's no objection, we'll go into recess for 5 minutes. Saying no objections, 5-minute recess. Thank you. The Planning Commission will come to order. We'll go to Section G, Study Session and Reports. Project name, rules and procedures, bylaws discussion, that the Planning Commission receive this report and consider providing language in writing for adoption at a future meeting or creating a subcommittee pursuant to the provisions of the bylaws. We'll go first to Mr. Pearson and go from there. Thank you.
Hello, Chair Rejo and Commissioners. So this is a discussion item for potential amendments to the bylaws. So this is just a discussion item for us to determine, or for the commission to determine whether or not they would like to propose any changes to the bylaws themselves. There's two options available. Either they can, or either the commission can provide language that can then be considered at a future meeting, or the commission can consider the creation of a subcommittee, which would then look into the changes to the bylaws, which would then be brought back to the full commission. So this was a result of a conversation that occurred on February 15th, or at the February 15th Planning Commission meeting, which the commission requested that we bring this item back for consideration.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pearson, for that summary. At this time, usually I try to wait until the end with my own comments or questions, but just to give a brief leaning of where to go administratively, as of right now, with no other further input from the Planning Commission, is that if we have one or a minimal number of topics that I'm inclined to suggest to the Planning Commission to take this up with, to not have a separate subcommittee. The last time when we had a subcommittee, which Commissioner Nash, Commissioner Connolly, and myself know of that we did 3 years ago, we did go to a subcommittee because we did do a full review 3 years ago. So if there's only one or minimal number of topics, I'd suggest that we don't create a new subcommittee. If we do have a several number, or if we just want to go to a subcommittee in general, we can go with that too. So I just wanted to put my thoughts out there before we get any discussion from the commission at this time on this item. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. Just a correction, I was not on that subcommittee. I believe it was Commissioner Chavez, was it? Yeah.
I meant just in general on the Planning Commission. Yes. Thank you for that clarification. And for Commissioner Zielsdorf, Commissioner Scholke, and Vice Chair Dr. Stewart, it was previous Chair Chavez, me as the previous Vice Chair, and Commissioner Connolly's that served on a multi-meeting during Zoom time for several months and a complete review of the bylaws. So I thought it was productive and good, and after a couple of years, it got approved by the City Council a couple months ago, and so now the bylaws are open to review, and that's where we are right now. Thank you. Is there any comments or questions from the Commission further? Commissioner Nash.
Chair, I don't have any issues that need to be raised in terms of a change in the bylaws, so I don't know if the other commissioners would want to weigh in on that, or if there is any need for that, so whatever your pleasure is, really.
I'll say something. I initially brought this up partially in regards to adding a land acknowledgement for the agenda. It needs to be in the bylaws, just so that we could have that at the beginning of the meeting. So I would still recommend that we go through this bylaw process in regard to adding that, unless we feel that there's a need not to do that anymore. So Commissioner Nash, it was started by you, but I just want to make sure I don't go over what you intended with that. Commissioner Nash.
I don't know if you need a response from me, but I think if that is best suited to go through the committee process, then that would be my recommendation. But I'll follow your lead on this since.
If there is just one topic, I'm going to ask Planning Commission if there's any other topics or questions that we think that the bylaws should consider changing, amending. But if there is just that one topic, I'm just going to suggest that that particular item be brought to the full Planning Commission at our next meeting. So I'm going to get a sense of the Planning Commission at this time and get any comments before I make a motion in regards to that. Commission. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
I just concur with that, to keep things simple.
Thank you. With those comments, I will move. I'll look to staff first if you'd like a motion or if our discussion of it is good enough to put this at the next reasonable meeting of the Planning Commission for this study session section.
So I just want to get clarity on kind of what the direction is. Are you guys asking for us to come back with the language, or do you guys have the language that can be provided to us?
Yeah, I believe over the last year that there was language on email communication going back and forth among myself, Commissioner Nash, and a couple of the staff members. And so I think at this time we'll have a conversation behind the scenes, I don't want to say behind the scenes, through email so that we could get language before the Planning Commission. And so I believe there was something at the last conversation that happened, or the last email that was sent, that would be a good starting point, and then we can go from there and put that before the Planning Commission. I'll look to Commissioner Nash if that sounds reasonable, and I think that's what we'll do, if that sounds okay with the staff.
Yes, that works for us.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll dig that up from the emails and then confirm before making that language set before the Planning Commission. So if there's no other comments or questions in regards to G1, we'll move on to G2, discussion of future study sessions and reports. That the Planning Commission receive this report and consider requesting that staff return with items as requested by the Commission for future agendas under study session reports. Mr. Pearson.
Yes, Chair Rejo and Commissioners. This item also was initiated at the second meeting in February of the Planning Commission. So this is just a discussion to talk about future discussion items that could be brought back. So this is an opportunity for the commission to identify various items that they would like to see us bring back through over the course of the next year. Obviously, there could be other things that might get added over the course of the year, but if there are any items that are of interest to the commission at this point in time, they could direct us basically to come back with those items in the future. Exact dates, I could work with the chair in terms of when the various items, depending on how many there were, because they might need to be spread out just and as a result of staff time and allocating staff time appropriately. But again, this is the opportunity for the commission as a whole to determine which items they would like to come back to the commission as discussion items.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. And in regards to the study sessions, I think we should have at minimum one per calendar year. I know that me and Dr. Lopez, our first meeting, we had a study session about elevators that was requested by the commissioners that sat before us. And so it can really be on anything. And so I know that we've talked about certain topics that we would like to hear more about, possibly even to recommend to City Council to make clarifications or even to make changes to their ordinance. But at minimum, for us to learn a little bit more about whatever topic that comes before us, and inevitably comes before us multiple times. So as of right now, I'm going to try to get a sense of the Planning Commission in regards to possible topics that we want to discuss. If it's somewhere in the field of less than 8, then I think we'll stick with all of those. But if it's something more than that, then we may have to vote on which topics that we want to prioritize. So I'll get suggestions, then go across the dais and have my own input. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
Okay, I guess for me, I'm thinking that, I guess I come from a time when the planning commission used to roll till 9, 10 o'clock sometimes. So it's like there's a lot of time, it seems now, that perhaps, and I don't want to say have one every meeting, but we could maybe have one at least once a month, depending on, what's on the agenda, because I'm interested like in alcohol. What are the changes? Every year we roll into like new green requirements. What are those and how do they affect our decisions that we have to make? We talk about zoning perhaps or anything else that, it seems like we ask a lot of questions that we might not ask if we had more training in that area. So for me, it's like, and it would be maybe a continuous process that every so often, we just poll the commissioners and see what other things as we're, going through the process that we want to know more about. And, kind of gauge from there how to add to that list.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dr. Stewart. But from what I heard from you right now, a topic would probably be alcohol, that we could consider alcohol permits. Okay, thank you. Any others from the commission? Commissioner Zilsdorf.
I also would like to know if we can, I don't know if it's ever been on the books about like emergency preparedness or for businesses who are applying, or is that even appropriate?
I'll look to city staff if that's something that the planning commission could hear about, or if that's a non-planning commission item.
Commissioner Zilsdorf and Commission, that we would want to keep them to the items that are kind of more land use related. And that the role of the planning commission is really is essentially the land use authority for the city. So emergency preparedness wouldn't really fall within like the planning division's kind of roles and responsibilities. So that wouldn't be something that we would necessarily be able to bring back here. But again, like other types of items, like I said, the alcohol permits, potentially items about zoning and other type of land use, things that are related to the items that come before the commission.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Zilsdorf. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
Yes, I guess I just think of some more, and that is perhaps, maybe somebody going in from the fire department and talking to us about regulations as we look at, housing, building things, what are the fire regulations? We usually see them in the end, but, maybe going into some more detail, which forces us to then ask more questions or to try to get a deeper understanding of what's going on.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair Dr. Stewart. Any others from the commission? Commissioner Nash?
Thank you, Chair. Well, I'm always interested in water, and I know that we have an absolutely brilliant Assistant City Manager in Ms. Klima, who can certainly cover any water-related issue that we care to hear about. And Mr. Pearson, I'm not sure what, I believe the name of the document is the Urban Water Management Plan that's supposed to be updated every 5 years. When was the last update, and when is the next update, if you know that offhand?
I'm familiar with the document, but I do not know when the last update to that occurred.
Because I believe in my first go around, it actually came before the Planning Commission, but I haven't seen a repetition. I missed a couple of years in there, so I'm just curious as to whether the Planning Commission still hears anything about that document.
I'm not certain at this time, but it's something I can look into and follow up with the commission on.
Okay, thank you very much. And also just, where we stand, and this can be a very brief statement by our staff about the local coastal plan, what its current status is, and when we can expect to see that. So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash, Mr. Pearson. Commissioner Conley.
So forgive me if I'm misunderstanding. Obviously, I think a lot of our role here is that we're not experts in the field of land use, safety, permitting, and all that wonderful stuff, and that we're truly representatives of the community. So I actually really like that we ask questions for clarity in the moment. I think that it's best for the public because they may be having the same questions that we do. And I know all of us at one point have definitely asked questions that we probably know the answer to just for clarity for the public. So I'm not quite understanding what the value of study sessions would be.
Thank you, Commissioner Conley. I'm gonna go first to Vice Chair Dr. Stewart, and then I'll go to staff what has been historically why we had study sessions, and then I'll say myself. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
Yes, I do agree that we should be asking questions, but things like undue concentration, because we understand it when we are looking at, that, that's something that we're conscious about and we ask more questions about. So my thinking is that the study sessions lead to deeper questions and maybe even more questions as we try to navigate this, on behalf of the public. And while I have the mic, my other thing is that there's lots of documents that are put out. There's a plan for biking and the trails. We have the housing element, and just some of those things, perhaps, having, a review of what these things are, what's contained in there, and is there anything we need to know about? We talk about ADUs. Do we really understand it? And I know that has evolved and, continues to evolve. So what's the latest understanding? So I can then take that and ask better questions. Not that there aren't any bad questions, but it just allows me to have a deeper understanding, or gee, I don't see that in here. What is the story on that? And so I can ask better questions, in my mind.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dr. Stewart. I'll go to staff. Just what has historically been done with study sessions?
Actually, I will concur with Vice Chair Dr. Stewart. So the study sessions usually are intended to help inform the commission so that as projects are brought before the commission, there just is an understanding of the regulations and kind of the role of the commission as a whole. So that way, the projects that are coming out of the commission are, currently great, but are just improved. And so the commission, again, is just knowing what to look for, kind of what the scope is, what they should be looking for, those types of things. That's kind of the intent of the study session. So that's kind of why the study sessions are really geared around the land use items, as again, the Planning Commission is the land use authority for the city of Oxnard.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. And I think even before, I don't know if it happened during Commissioner Nash's and Vice Chair Dr. Stewart's time, but there used to even be a Wednesday session, which I'm glad we're not doing. And so I think a 5 to 10 minute possibly presentation would be agreeable, especially since our meetings are not as long as what has been historically. So I think we're just in a position to do so. I don't think it was conceivable or really it would have been as productive during Zoom time, especially when we had all those marijuana licenses. So I just thought I'd get the ball rolling, and there are actually a couple of not just study sessions, but actions that I'd like to possibly do for a couple of the topics. So yeah, that's just for mine. So yeah, thank you. Thank you all for your comments. I'll go to Commissioner Schuelke before I say anything else, if you have any topics.
Well, I was just going to say, as the newest commissioner, I'm happy with all of the above on study sessions. And that I agreed with Vice Chair Dr. Stewart's request for alcohol and zoning specifically. I think that would be useful from my vantage. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schuelke. So as of right now, we have alcohol permits, fire department regulations, water, local coastal plan, ADUs. And at this time, I'm going to recommend the 3 topics that were put in the memo: past development projects under construction, although that doesn't necessarily have to be an agenda item, but I think maybe quarterly would be good just to get some sense of the projects that were previously approved by the Planning Commission. Just an update brief. I really don't think that needs an agenda item unless we decide otherwise. Solar requirements, we've talked about that on and off. And then mine was the Planning Commission stipend. I know that we can't formally even ask the City Council, and so I'm going to have some thoughts in regards to at least when that topic comes before us. So with that, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 8 topics before us. We might want to consider doing 2 topics during one, because we only have more or less 8 months in the calendar year. I'm going to look to commission if we want to try to do 1 topic per month, or do, I don't know. I'm going to look at the planning commission first before I hear any motion or recommendation on how we should structure or prioritize the topics. Vice Chair Dr. Stewart.
I just had a few more to add. Interested perhaps in the rules for food trucks. You know, we talk about that and having them in here. I know we've dealt with that. And then how about short-term rentals? You know, what is the latest rule for those? Or is that kind of still up in the air? And so, you know, there's just a lot of different things that come across our plate sitting up here that perhaps the more we're aware, the more we can, you know, delve into that.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dr. Stewart. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you. I think what we can do is, you know, compile a list of the topics that we've brought up tonight and submit it to staff and give them the ability to come back to us on at their convenience. You know, when they have a staff member who has particular expertise in whatever subject we want to have brought before us, we want to make sure that that staff member has first the time, you know, to devote to us, because it is a hardship to come before us and after a full day and everything else. So we want to be sensitive to that, and also to present these things when we don't have a full agenda. So, you know, when our agenda allows us to, you know, end our regular meeting, you know, after 45 minutes, and then we could devote another 15 minutes to a special hearing, or whatever the term might be.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Commissioner Nash. I think with that, if there's no other further comments, I'm going to Commissioner Conley.
I guess I have one more. I know in the past, Mr. Pearson has been fantastic about updating us on projects and the progress that they're going on. So I always think it's wonderful. And I'm always interested in our how we're hitting our CEQA numbers. That's always very exciting. And where we're at units wise.
Yes.
Yeah.
CEQA or RENA?
Rena, my apologies, Rena, yes.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Commissioner Conley. I think, okay, if there's no other comments, I think with these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 topics, not including the projects currently under construction or previous, just an update. We'll just do that on a quarterly-ish basis. I will email the Planning Commission staff and blind copy everyone on the Planning Commission with regards to the topics. I think the only thing that I'm going to ask, if there is just a priority, not that they're going to be able to, but if there is a priority, because at least for what I'm thinking in regards to the stipend, I'd like that to be in the next 1 to 3 months. But if you have a recommendation or preference for priority, please let me know, or let staff know, copy me in regards to that, or say that at the next meeting. And then I think we can more or less go with there, unless Mr. Roselle has a concern that we might accidentally do a email meeting. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you. I think in addition to the availability of staff to appear before us, that, and I'd be willing to leave this up to the chairperson, is prioritize them according to the important, how important they may be to a new commissioner. That way, you know, some of the, because I don't know if we need to talk about food trucks in the first week.
Okay.
But
thank you, Commissioner Nash. I think then, at least before staff, Mr. Pearson says something, my recommendation was that give the list of topics, preferences for what comes a little bit earlier or first, depending obviously on staff availability, and then it'll just come before us at the next meeting, so we can just do a final confirmation in regards to the range of topics. Mr. Pearson.
You may have just addressed what I was going to say. So I guess two things. One, yes, we would need to look at how we brought these back. I know there may be some shorter meetings, but there are other things that some of the staff people will be working on. So pulling them away to do this, we just have to kind of balance that. So again, we'll definitely bring these to you. But again, it just may not be every month, unfortunately. Also, in addition to that, I guess if there's, and maybe, again, this is what you are alluding to, Chair Rejo, but kind of ranking them, or at least kind of highlighting maybe like a top 4 or 5 that we can kind of focus in on, and then the others we can bring back kind of after that, or maybe just kind of grouping them into the important ones, or if we want to make a list of all of them and put them in order, that potentially works as well. But just kind of maybe kind of figure out which ones are the critical ones that the commission would like to see.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pearson. And I think that was, in general, what I think the sense of the Planning Commission and my comments in regards to that the priority lists or the preference is, I guess, a guideline that our preference, all else being equal, that will start at the top, but if not, for whatever topic comes before us, and that not necessarily will get to all topics, but more likely we'll get to the first ones first. Yeah. Okay, thank you. If there's no other comments or questions from the Planning Commission in regards to the items before us, or at least I was listening to the agenda, I'll go to the entire Planning Commission with any business for our next session, if they have anything to report. Commission. Okay. See. Commissioner Nash?
So, are we under
Section H, Planning Commission business.
Planning Commission business?
Yes.
So I just want to make a brief comment, and I've talked about this before. Everybody up here is up here because because of their love for Oxnard. I just want to briefly mention that I had the opportunity to visit Monterey this past week. And folks, we live in an absolutely stunning state. It is so beautiful this time of year that I encourage everybody to get out, look around. Everything is a vibrant green. It's like Ireland, although I've never been to Ireland. And it's just a fantastic place to live, and we should all be very appreciative of where we live. And I just wanted to express that and encourage everybody to look on the sunny side of the street. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. And I actually follow up from that sentiment about looking at the sunny side, that actually this Monday there will be a solar eclipse that actually the entire U.S. will be able to see, not a total, but you will be able to see at least a partial for any part in the in the continental and Alaska and Hawaii. I myself am traveling, so I can see a total solar eclipse because it will not occur in North America for another 20 years. So if you do look at it, use the approved sunglasses. I'm sure there's enough astronomy clubs around hosting events to have it. So I'm looking forward to that. And you should be seeing a little bit dimming, maybe not sunny, but you'll see the opposite. And I think that's still also a sight to see, so, or to not see. Thank you very much. Any others from the commission? We'll move on to staff updates. Mr. Pearson.
Commissioners, no real updates. We did have one item that we were anticipating for our next meeting. However, that was going to be pushed into our May 2nd meeting. So our next meeting would be canceled. I know we just talked about the discussion sessions. It might be a little too soon to bring something back for that meeting, but again, we'll keep it in mind for the future. But for the next meeting, at this point in time, we don't have any items. So we'll have our May 2nd meeting be our next meeting.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Ms. Roselle, welcome back. We missed you at the last one, so
Thank you so much.
appreciate it. Thank you. And if there's no further business from the commission, the meeting will be adjourned. Seeing and hearing no objection, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.